reported by our militaries, and sparked great debates amongst ourselves. I am here to tell you that, ladies and gentlemen, people of Earth, brothers and sisters of all races, all countries, that we are not alone. We have never been alone. That some higher power has sought to spread the gift of life throughout the universe and beyond all comprehension. It is in these times we must learn to love one another. We must not share hate, but joy. We must not inhibit, but we must grow. These beings are our friends. They are our family. They want to help us become better, to see the true potential of mankind. And for maybe one day, we will join them in their voyage to help other beings from other star systems. As shocking as this news may be, it is nothing new. Our governments of the world have known for quite some time that we are not alone in this universe, and we have had contact for many of years, slowly preparing the American public and the publics of the world for such revelation. We are not alone, and we are about to embark on the greatest journey mankind has ever experienced. Ladies and gentlemen, we have contact.
What in the fuck?
You've changed my position. That's terrible. I'm in this corner.
That sounds dirty.
That's terrible.
You
What?
grouchy old fart. That just sounds totally dirty.
Ah,
I'm
terrible,
calling
ladies and
HR.
gentlemen.
I
It's
have a
terrible.
talk with you about your language. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Contacts. Clearly, we've gone off the rails.
Yeah, I know.
My name is Dakota.
You
This
see the
is
things.
Mr.
You see
Christopher.
You should see the things he was doing to me before the live started.
Well, you're always fantasizing about me in a gimp
Well,
suit.
I know, and you're right. You're right.
realize
Was going
how
on about
freaking
Mike, and
I
Mike
actually
again. You're actually talking about Mike quite a lot. Is Mike in the chat tonight, ladies and gentlemen? Just ignore us, guys. We're having a laughable day.
I don't know what it is lately. It just seems like there's all sorts of stress in the air. We gotta
there
find
is.
ways to, calm down before everybody goes nuclear. Oh,
Yeah. Well, let's face it. This might be our last Sunday show we ever do.
well, you never know.
You know,
Knock on wood and all that fun stuff. But
my neighbours will be wondering what that noise is.
knock on wood.
Aye. Who's in the chat, Dakota? What interesting people do we have in there?
Right now. Interesting.
Mm.
Interesting. Well, there's let's see. Paranormal World Investigators. Hello, there's
don't know-
Juice
I don't know
Paranormal
who
Blog.
that is.
What a weirdo.
Oh, aye, I've heard about her. Oh, aye, I've heard. I'm sorry, Drew. Don't hex me.
We love you, Drew.
Don't put me in
let
a
us be
jar.
blind.
No. We've went mad, guys.
Oh, we're
my
gonna turn that
cold's
into
nearly
merch.
my cold's nearly went away. It's just left me with a bunged up nose, you know. So Dakota, what's the subject
That's all the
tonight?
things you've been telling me you've been shoving up your nose. Anyway, tonight we started it off kind of weird, but we've been throughout several episodes. We've actually been jumping on and off of the topic of starseeds, but we never actually did something to talk about what that actually is.
Yeah.
And
So let's start.
when it comes to like the UFO topic, for those of you who were catching the little test broadcast I did earlier, it does sometimes resonate as a sort of religion. It actually registers in the human mind as a religion.
Wait a minute, I need to just bring this up.
The ladies are freaking out about our remarks. We're got people in here talking about wanting to rub head.
Well, I'm just saying. Well, I've got a lovely shiny head, you know. But on you go, you were telling us, hey, Mike.
Oh, hi, Mike. Oh, shit. Oh, that's actually somebody. Hey, Mike. Mike, by the way, if you want to come in tonight and put in your thoughts, I would love to hear what you have to say, because tonight we want to talk about Starseed, or the Envoy program.
I sent it to
Because
you, Mike.
there's so much to this subject that not a lot of people realize.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, wait,
Look at
one
that.
man. No, that's one of the ones Elena popped on.
What? There's somebody, we love you guys. Thank you so much. I mean,
Oh,
Dakota
thank
has,
you.
he's got a lovely shiny head, you know. Mine's no completely bald yet, but I'm getting there with the madness, you know.
And, maybe this is a new kink, people rubbing their bald. Oh my god. Wow.
I know, we need to bring out a t-shirt. We need to bring out a limited edition t-shirt with us two on it, with a certain title at the bottom. I want to work in that.
Well, I was
tonight.
already thinking of getting the pictures from our original banner, and I'm just going like a Bald and Bonkers voice thing, make kind of like a band theme to it.
Yeah, yeah. So you were saying about Starseeds, Dakota?
Yes, we were.
Yes, before you went off there
So-
tangent about bald heads.
Yeah, we obviously have a kinky crowd tonight. We might have to start a
Mm.
PH channel.
No? No more.
Bald heads are. Whoa.
See what I
Okay,
mean?
we're starting to get. We're starting.
What?
I'm sorry. I was looking at the chat.
What?
Good to
I'd
see
show ma.
Sherry. Good to see
So,
you're feeling
Sherry.
better.
Yep. Yeah, I know. I just kind of. I'm watching the chat on my phone here, and I'm also watching the chat there, and I'm like,
We unleashed something.
yes, we did.
And-
You've started a new phase here.
You know, it's too bad that we can't see some of the other channels' chats because they're technically not fully compatible with StreamYard. But when we were talking about bikini on last night's episode, someone left an emoji picture of a woman tied in one of the chat rooms.
I'm reading
I
the
was like, I
chat.
didn't know you could make that. You
Read the
usually
chat,
just
Dakota. Read the chat.
oh my god.
Oh, I
anyway,
should
we
try
were
to
talking
Captain
about
Cats. Oh, he
Starseed.
comes in here. No, there's one mad gnome. Read what one mad gnome's at.
Less chafing with bald head. You're not wrong there. Oh my god.
See what you started, Dakota, going on about your shiny head now. Right, let's go. Come on, we've only got an hour or so to talk about star children, starseeds and stuff like that. Come on.
So this is actually something that I've been wanting to talk about for some time because there is a lot of confusion.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, especially say like if they follow people like Elena, they try to assume that this is the work of the negative. What the? I made the mistake of looking at the chat.
Yeah, don't look at the chat. Imagine the chat doesn't exist. Which is cute.
I was like, can I go full screen here to block that? Anyway, an analogy I like to use when it comes to this type of confusion is that the human brain is a lot like old school TVs. Where if you want to like watch a movie or if you play an old video game on like old Super Nintendo, you would have to turn to channel 3, right?
Yeah.
That our brain can only handle channel 3. And I'm probably going to have to think of a new analogy for people even younger than me, but nevertheless.
Right.
Because, ironically, your little remark in the chat, not a lot of people realize, it is said that even Christ and his followers taught that there was going to be a mass coming of Starseeds.
That's right. I've heard about that. Yeah. Look, I think on Earth right now, I think a lot of people are starseeds, Dakota. I mean, I could name a few of them in the chat right now. There's Elena is definitely a starseed. I mean, Elena's
That's
amazing.
without a doubt.
Yeah, Elena is one. Elena's channel, guys, need to check that out. Is one of the most amazing channels out there. I think. I mean, she even talks about this, the starseeds. I mean, the people in the chat, I would say nearly all of them are starseeds. See, guys, you should be coming up. You should be talking about this. This is the thing. There's a lot of people. See, the thing is, that it's a new age because UFOs and the alien cultures start to be took seriously now. You see what I'm trying to say? See, you imagine if you went back to the early 80s and started talking about this. You'd be laughed out. You would be. And
yeah, the only time you would probably get some leeway if you followed like Buddhist teachings back then, because starseeds heavily rely on reincarnation cycles.
Yes.
Which shows that we're not necessarily locked into this plane of existence, this planet, however you want to talk about it.
Yeah.
Because needless to say, those terms get interchanged so much. I believe that's
See, ladies and gentlemen, this is what happens when
I was
we
going
go
to say,
mad.
Well, I was also going to say that Elena said that in her book, whenever the implants are getting a signal, stuttering can happen. So,
Yes.
thank you guys. Thank you.
No, but right, look, there's Drew's Paranormal there. She's talking about what is a starseed. Dakota, tell everybody what is a starseed. What is a starseed? Exactly.
How can we define this? Right now, the most inclusive answer, I think that would be a good way to phrase this, is Starseed is a soul that is incarnated from another realm or another planet of existence.
Yes.
And it is said that whenever these starseeds come, or as particularly in mass, like it is believed they have been for at least the last 26 years. Hello. There is a massive change. And if you follow some works of, say, like Elena Denon and some of the other people she talks to, the Starseed, the Envoy program, whatever you want to call it, may in fact actually be a loophole.
Yes. See, well, there's an interesting fact. There's one mad gnome. I've been here for 1,000 years and still can't figure out humans.
Same here.
Right? See, I feel like I'm different. I feel like I'm here for a certain purpose, right? Right? And this is my last trip here. This is it. This is it for me. I'm graduating. I am not coming back here again. I don't care if they try and drag me back, kicking and screaming. I am not coming back to the Earth. I don't care if I'm put on the planet Solo or something like that, and the only life form there. I'm not coming back to Earth. Right? I just feel that this is my last time on Earth. What's your opinion on that? What's that,
Maybe.
Inferno? What's that? I
can say that, but we actually have a very good question here that doesn't even tie into my remark about it being a loophole for something. So, for those who are on the audio version of the podcast, Infernographer asked, are there bad starseeds? What about being a starseed of an alien race that is bent on intergalactic colonization? I really like this remark.
Right.
In a sense, it is said that, how do I put this? Certain beings have a soul matrix. It's actually said that the human body that we know now, when it's still in utero, the fetus doesn't develop enough to where it can hold a soul until about the 3-month marker.
Mm-hmm.
And certain beings that are believed to be on the dark side, for lack of a better word, they're said to not actually have a soul. So that may eradicate the potential for bad starseeds, but honestly, there's too much out there to really be sure of it.
Well, it's quite interesting, that fact, right? You've heard of the Men in Black and all that. They're meant to be like genetically modified kind of beings, right? What happens if they are bad, right? Because let's face it, the good extraterrestrials out there are sending starseeds to Earth for reasons, right? So obviously the bad ones are going to do the same for their reasons, to bring about how can I say this? They're putting in like let's take Elena. She's a good starseed. She's been sent here. She's been sent to help people understand, right? But then maybe the bad ones are sending people here for the purpose of like going after people like Elena and going after people like us, trying to close us down. You see where I'm going with this?
It's quite possible. Because one thing we have to get rid of is this racial bias that comes with alien species. There's no other way to really put it. Let's take the Pleiadians as an example. There's good and bad ones.
Yeah.
A lot of Elena's writings from Thorhan, Valthor, a lot of the major ones we know are on the good side, have said you have got to stop that. Otherwise, you will be screwed over.
Yeah.
I was also talking about where it was a loophole. It is said that these beings cannot directly interfere with the evolution of life on the planets they're trying to help until they reach a certain point. However, they figured out how to direct souls to different bodies to the point they can actually modify cellular structures so that the soul can be taken and inhabit certain bodies.
I find
managed to figure that out.
See, that's what I find amazing. Us humans, we're still trying to understand the afterlife, right? What happens when you die and stuff like that. But the extraterrestrials, they've been around that long. They know what happens when you die. So it makes you wonder. I mean, it's fascinating. As if they must know the true journey a soul makes. Think about
Actually, I was just going to say that. In Elena's book, she talks about this conversation where they discuss an individual who was a soldier who ended up dying in battle. The thing is, they had a backup body for this individual. However, they could not get to the soul in time in order to transfer it to the new body, which again is an amazing accomplishment when you really think about it. To understand the soul that well, to understand the human mind, the human body that well. A point I try to say, not a lot of people think about this. Everything you watch, everything you do, every conversation you have changes the structure of your mind. That's why it's so hard to study. And the mind can actually develop structures in the 13th dimension.
Well,
making it one of the most complex structures in the known universe.
A lot of people don't realise, and this is for the people that don't believe in life after death and stuff like that. The human soul, other souls, alien souls, their electricity were made up of energy, right? We're made up of energy, right? Energy cannot die, right? So when the human body dies or the extraterrestrial body dies, you just go somewhere, right? So the extraterrestrials, they must have built something that can gather the souls. I mean, what is your opinion on that? How do you think they actually do it? How do you think they actually take a soul, they know who that soul is, bring that soul and put it in that body?
Their level of understanding is a lot like transferring files on a USB flash drive.
Yep.
That's what a lot of people don't realize. It is something we are trying to figure out how to do now. There's actually a startup who is looking to create digital afterlives.
I seen that.
There's
Yeah.
also another machine that they're trying to develop to measure consciousness right now, basically to try to determine if someone is truly dead. But right now, the most it can actually read is about the neurological levels of a typical housefly.
Well, it's weird you should say that, right? I watched a program once. And they've just actually found this out. Right, you die, right? Your body, they take you to the morgue, or wherever they take you to. Your brain, that there's still things happening in your brain well after you have been taken to the morgue, and a lot of people don't realise that. There's still stuff going on deep inside your head. I can't remember where I seen it, but it was like these scientists had figured out that there's still activity for like hours after someone's died. So that must be the soul leaving the body.
No. Well, another situation is that they managed to measure brain activity for at least up to 7 minutes after someone passed away. However, you also have to look at near-death experiences. There's this one doctor, I can't remember his name. I got it saved somewhere on my computer because I've been trying to find his information to maybe get him as a guest on this show.
Yeah.
He has seen somebody come back from the dead. He wasn't fully embalmed yet.
Right.
I'll put that out there.
Yeah.
He was considered dead for 3 days. In the morgue, in the freezer, and eventually came back. That was one of the most extreme examples he has actually ever seen. I'm not talking back, Easter mythos where Jesus came back to life 3 days later. That's a whole nother topic.
Yeah.
This was actually 10, 15 years ago when this happened.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So there's so much we don't know, which makes this topic so much harder to discuss because there's people that assume that we don't know means we'll never know.
It's just fascinating. And I mean, this stuff is fascinating. There's actually a good question in the chat there, Dakota. Is it one man gnome? You go back to the source, you review your life, both good and bad, make the list, improve yourself. You come back and continue your trip. Well, that's the life review, innit?
I wanted. That's actually another point I was going to make. And to continue the last question I was trying to say, there was part of that question where they were asking if a species could use the Starseed program to essentially as a hybrid species program.
Yeah.
Because who's going to be more willing to participate in that than people already on the inside? Which technically, if the information about some of my contacts, for those of you who've been following this channel for a little bit, the Star family, the wife and hybrid children I have, they originate from Tal Shiar, the Tal species as Lyrans.
Yes.
They are well known for interbreeding with native species of planets they intend to come visit.
Yeah. I mean, if you really think about it, you've got to think about how much life is actually out there. Right? I mean, there's billions of life forms out there. I mean, probably more than that. If you think of all the other realities and universes and it just keeps going forever, you think about how much life force there actually is and everything. What's that there from Inferno? Maybe it's like man in the middle. What's that? Scroll up here. Did you click it? Maybe it's like man in the middle attacks you. You know, one of the ways you can steal people's data is internet's request. It's actually really interesting, isn't it? It makes
that's actually what it sounds like. Is that if they have such an understanding of the soul transfer between the living and the dead, that they can actually intercept it and put that soul into a new body. Now, here's a comment from one man gnome. The soul weight, that I know the study that's actually from. It was a mortician that was trying to figure out the weight of the bodies between time of passing and later on when the soul may have left. That 4 to 14 grams was the bodily fluids.
Oh.
And as well as the gases that build up on the inside of the body.
Yes, that's right.
That's what that actually was. I know the study that came.
Yeah. See, a lot of people don't realise. I know someone that works in a funeral home, and they were telling me that they go to graveyards to dig the graves and stuff, and they'll actually open coffins up in case of inquests and stuff, and your fingernails and your hair keeps growing. Well, maybe not in our case, our hair will keep growing, but your fingernails.
It's your fingernails and your gum. It's not necessarily your hair.
Right. So that still grows.
Not really.
So is it shrinkage then? If you really think about it, this gives the illusion of
around it that recedes, that makes it look like it's growing longer.
Yeah, right, there you go. That's me. I've learned something today. What's that there, one man gnome? Your contracts are based on your DNA.
That is actually right. So here's actually another book. It's by an author, Craig Campbell Basso. We actually had him on the show.
That's right.
It's another ET guide who actually talks a lot about the Starseed Program. He calls it the Melchizedek Program. This is actually another religious reference that has been cited with texts involving Christ. That the Starseed Program, it's kind of like the Peace Corps in a way, but it's also like a college course with apparently Earth, no surprise, being one of the hardest points.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as far as your contacts being based on DNA, first off, the soul recognizes its own. The soul fragments when you have children. The universe itself, every single living being is a fragment of source. And it intermingles. So if you're going to go into the Starseed Program, chances are you're going to subconsciously remember certain details. This is where the stories of like reincarnated children pointing out their killers in the past life.
Yeah.
Who's going to be better for you to help you figure out than your own family?
It's strange.
Who is it that usually come through when you die to help you cross over?
It's actually strange you say that, and I'll tell you why. This is nothing to do with the alien stuff. I was talking to a medium one day, and she was telling me that I says to her, I says, "Oh, I think this is my first time here." And she went, No. She says, "You've been here a lot of times." And I'm like, "Oh, how do you know that?" She says, "Well, actually, the last person you were was in the same village as you." And I went, "Really?" "Yeah." "And the person before that was in the same village as you. As that person." So it makes you wonder, do you stay with a certain family throughout this? See, because I've met you, Dakota, and I've met like a lot of people in the chat there that know me personally. Is there a connection with us all when we go back when we die, right? Do we all meet up and we say, "Well, that worked out quite okay. What's the next plan?" Because we get our memories back, who we really were. So it makes you wonder. See what I'm trying to say? If we're family.
Well, there's a couple different points here. Lisa actually mentioned soul fragments as well during one of the past interviews we had with her with our previous affiliations. Mm-hmm. That the soul does fragment with each incarnation, and we're supposed to recollect once we get back. But Elena also mentioned something that the souls that reincarnate have to match the body. It's like blood types.
Right.
If you don't match up the right blood type, you can get some serious issues.
Right.
So it does make you wonder. I mean, they also, at least they also say in one of the bits that I've seen her in, and she is going to be. Don't we actually have her on as a guest next week?
Next Sunday, Lisa Fry's coming on. Yeah.
All right, we can ask her to clarify some of this crap.
Yeah.
What was I just saying?
You're talking about soul fragmentation.
Soul Fragment's family. So it does make me wonder. It is honestly something I'm kind of interested to test, being that there is certain parts of our family backgrounds that seem to overlap, whether or not we may actually be related and just haven't known all this time.
See, I think, this is my personal opinion, I think before I came here, and before we all came here, we all knew each other. Right? I think it's all been planned out, and when I go back, yes, I'll have the memories of what I've got now, but I'll also have the memories of what I used to have. Right? And then it'll go back to the drawing board, and it'll be like, all right, and I'll wait on you coming over, I'll wait on you crossing over, and then we'll sit down and we'll go, right, what do you want to do next? Where do you want to go next? What we got to do next? I know I say I don't want to come back here, but I probably don't have a choice in that. Right?
Well, yeah, if you're incarnating in the same fucking village, you're just fucking lazy.
Yeah, I mean, three times, seemingly I have been reincarnated in the same area. To the same people. So it makes you wonder, was in a distant, maybe, let's go back 100 years ago, maybe 100 years ago, Dakota, you were my brother, or you're my father, or you were some relation of mine.
Would explain a lot about how we
Yeah,
yeah,
it would explain a lot of things, guys. What's that for Paranormal World Investigators? I believe we must meet people from our past and our new life. Aye, so they are. Yeah. I mean, what do you, the guys in the chat, what do you all think about this? I mean, the invitation's up if you want to come up and talk about this. It's in the chat.
Come on, talk with us. We want to try to get as many people's different perspectives on this. Yeah. Mike, if you're feeling up to it, you're welcome to come aboard.
Mike, if you go into Twitter, Mike have sent you the invite through there. So if you want to come up.
Yeah, it's still there. I know you tend to pop in and out now. So
it makes you wonder, because it's quite strange how the people I've met Sherry, I've met Drew, I've met you, and it's weird how we have similarities, how we've met. I mean, before I met you, you were in my village. Strange that. I mean, it's like, how is that possible? My village has got a population of like 500, not even that, 300 people. Right? And you come through my village, right? As if it was your destiny for that to happen. And it's the same with meeting Sherry and Drew.
No, go ahead.
No, on you go. No, that's me finished.
No, all right. We were goofing off on Xbox, and your brother was with us the other night. And he was talking about that education first chores. Yes. No, I'm going to completely lay this down. You mentioned that your village tends to be get stopped a lot by a lot of tourist buses, right?
Yeah.
So that technically does kind of eliminate. Yeah, I was on one of those trips, so there was a pretty good chance I was going to come through. But here's also another thing. I technically wasn't supposed to go on that trip.
Okay.
The trip we did before that, we ran with this company for a while. Something I found out later on is that apparently we can actually arrange travel groups. And if you get at least 6 people to go with you, you get a free travel spot. You can get the whole trip paid for you for free.
Right.
So that explained a lot about why my old teacher was doing it. Anyway. But the trip before that, the reason why I decided, fuck it, I'm going, is because I found out I was part of the tour was Loch Ness.
Yes.
And as I'm just going to say, because we do have a lot of new people watching the show now, I actually ended up on a National Geographic program because I had a Nessie sighting while I was there. So it certainly does paint an interesting picture how it all sort of evolved. And because obviously I remember seeing the logo of our previous affiliations.
Yeah.
The logo that we had before everything went to shit.
Yeah.
I remember seeing flashes of that logo when I was about 12, 13 years old.
Yeah.
Like, I was supposed to look for it. And something I want to honestly ask Lisa is that if it's possible to have memories from your family members from before you were even thought of, before your parents were even thought of.
Yeah.
Because I have memories of my grandparents when they were in high school. And I didn't even make that association that that's that time frame until I saw pictures of them in a funeral video my mother put together.
Yeah.
This is actually something I've never told anybody before. But I've also come to realize if I'm going to figure out what the heck is going on lately, I need to start being more open about myself.
See,
and look how many times that's brought up some weird shit.
See, the thing is, right, what happens if, right, when you die, right, and you cross over, you can play a family member, right? Say, for instance, my great-grandfather, right, he died in 1922 in a mining accident, right? What happens if that guy is actually me? Think about it.
There is actually reincarnation stories of, there was this one that comes to mind. It was his father. His kid was just barely old enough to start talking, changing the diaper.
Yeah.
And he says, I used to change your diaper too. And there were certain times where certain things would come out where he was wondering if the child he had was in fact his own father. Which is kind of sounds a little Sweet Home Alabama, but we're not going to go there.
I have heard that. I mean, I did watch a psychic thing one day. It was on TV, and this woman was giving a reading to this other woman, and she says, "Well, you lost your daughter, but she had another daughter. She had a sister, and the sister was expecting." And she says her soul is going to come back through that child, right? So it makes you wonder for a slight wee bit. Right, I die tomorrow, right? Say it happens, I go to the spirit world, right? And then a little bit of my soul comes back as a relation, right? But obviously, because I'm up there, right, I'm still aware. I'm still Christopher. I'm still aware, right? But a little bit of my soul has become another life form. You see where I'm going with this? Have you just froze? You froze, Dakota.
Okay, clearly we're causing a disturbance in the force.
Yeah.
Chris.
It's interesting. No, it's you that's froze for me. You froze for me. Can you hear me?
Obviously, we're getting close to something. I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Right. Yeah, I can hear you. You were freezing a couple of times for me, but what I'm saying is, right, I die, I go to the afterlife where time does not exist, right? A little bit of my soul stays in the afterlife as Chris, right? So I get to do what I want to do in the afterlife, right? But another bit of my soul comes back to Earth or comes back to wherever I'm meant to be and is born into the same family. So maybe in 20 or 30 years down the line, a relation of mine will have a child, right? And I'm born into that, right? But I'm still, You see where I'm going here with this kind of thing. You see where I'm trying to go here. It's weird because I'm getting a lot of kind of weird interference here. It's as if we're on the right track. I think we've just discovered something. Yeah.
There's a couple of other things. There's my mother in the chat.
Hello, Shannon.
Anyway, here's another thought. I've actually heard of stories where a mother was talking to her child, and the child would say, "Hey, Mom, did you know that I was coming before?" And she's like, "What do you mean?" It's like, "Yeah, I tried with being born before, but something went wrong, so I died in your belly, but I came back." The mother had a miscarriage about a couple of years before that child was born. So who's to say that there was a legitimate freak accident that couldn't have been prevented? That he was still supposed to be in that family, so he came back as his own sibling.
Yeah, it's like right. This is a
kind of different fragment.
See, this is like the paradox I've got, right? My grandmother died, right? But if I get to 90, how do I know when I die I'll see her again? Because she might want to come back and be reborn again, right? Think about it, right? So when I go to the afterlife, right, she'll not be there because she'll be born again, but she will be there because a little bit of her soul turned into a new soul, right? And
actually, I have a theory.
Member.
I have a theory.
Right.
Let's take the sort of physics and mathematicians version of dimension. Okay. The soul is supposed to be multidimensional. It could access any point in time and space, that sort of thing. If you focus that energy into a smaller plane, you're going to catch something on fire.
Yeah.
But what if that's the reason it has to fragment to prevent that?
Yes.
From happening?
What happens if when you die, right, you as Dakota or me as Chris, right, stays in the afterlife, right, as that person. I am all my marbles. I can do what I want forever, right? I'm there, right? But my soul cuts away and comes back. You get me? As another soul and another baby, right? And when that soul gets old or dies in an accident or so, that soul comes back. And I'll recognise that soul. I'll be, oh, hello there, whatever your name is. And that person will break away like I did. And that part of the soul, right, will go away the journey again. You see where I'm going here? And I think that's what it is. I think that's how it works. Honestly, I noticed your meter went a few times there when I was talking about that.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I'm saying. The soul is multidimensional. It could fragment multiple times at once and live completely different separate timelines.
Yes.
So here's another thought. You were kind of giving me shit about something before, about another topic, but I got to thinking about a sort of what if scenario.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll probably come to you what I'm talking about when I say this. So let's say this higher soul collective that everything fragments off of is the concept we know as the higher self, right?
Yes.
What if, we'll say, what would happen if that, and it even factors into the ETs, that the full soul of the ET does not get sent to a body on Earth.
Yeah.
So what if somehow the ET higher self were to somehow meet their soul fragment that's alive and well in the time space we know right now?
Yes.
What would happen in that sort of situation?
So you're basically saying... imagine, right, let's do this for people to understand in relative, right? Imagine somewhere out there in the deep blackness of space, there's a planet somewhere, right? And on that planet, there's pods, and each pod contains like you, right? A clone version of you, right? But there's two clones of that person, right? So there's one clone here on Earth, right? And there's one clone there. So they take that little bit of fragmented soul, you, and put it into that pod, right? Hence you wake up here, right? And when you die here, you go back to that pod, right? So you wake up in that pod, and then you can do anything else you're doing, right? And then when you die there, you go back to the afterlife, and the cycle begins again. Is that what you're trying to go with this?
No, not quite.
No,
Not quite.
No, right.
Say, all right. The situation, like with my Star family, with Elena and Thor Han, there are physical relations. If I remember correctly from Elena's book, Thor Han was actually her husband in her previous incarnation. So what if, say, like, the reason why we're all meeting up in these different lifetimes is because we are part of the Starseed program, and say we're like in the same military unit, for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
Part of the reason why we link up is because we're supposed to link up. And say that, what if one of the ones watching us also fragmented? Because time doesn't, it's not necessarily that it doesn't exist. It still exists. It's just that it has a lot more ways to flow. It's like we experience time as a river moving downstream. By the time we reach a certain point, it hits the ocean, spreads out. That's the picture I'm going with, and a lot of the map checks out. So what if someone out of that ocean comes up near the stream and makes a part of itself? What happens then? What if someone meets their own higher self? Not in some sort of meditative state, but as in a face-to-face interaction.
Yeah.
Or is there some sort of weird paradox thing going on that hopefully there's some sort of protective measure against, because that could probably freak somebody out.
What happens if, right, here's one for you, right? What happens if this happens, right? You die, you go to the afterlife, right? You're all aware, you're aware, you stay in the afterlife, right? But a bit of your soul breaks off, right? And comes back to Earth or back to wherever you've been sent, right? People talk about having guardian angels and having like spirit guides. What happens if just listen to this? What happens if you, because you're in the afterlife, you go back to be that spirit guide for you?
For yourself?
Yes.
You
are Dakota. You are Dakota. You are in the afterlife. You've got no illness. You are what you are. You remember dying in that hospital or whatever. You go to the afterlife. I bet your soul breaks off. You don't know anything really about that until you've come out your life review and stuff. Then you come out your life review and they're like, right, there's a bit of your soul has been born again as a little boy or a little girl, right? Your duty now is to look after that soul until it gets to a certain age for its life, right? And that's how it works. That's how it works. What's that there, Fit? Is it Laura? Is it, yeah. What's that?
Hypnosis to myself as another being with a job and a name and a family and friends. You know, that's another scenario. But let me illustrate more the point that I was leaning towards. In one of the infamous questions, the people that seem to be shocked I asked about the Starseed Infidelity paradox, we'll call it. That's a lot cooler.
Yeah.
One of the ladies that brought it up said that she does have a star husband herself who she fully believes is actually the higher self of the husband she's married to in this life.
Yeah.
So it's like, what if, is there a situation where his higher self can come down and meet them?
Probably will be. It's like I say, I die, a bit of my soul breaks away and gets reborn. But as me as Chris in the afterlife, I can do anything I want, and I can come down and look at, say, his name's John, right? For instance, just call that my soul's turned into a guy called John, right? I can look after him. I can try and guide him through life, right? Just hanging about, right? Then when he dies, I go and I collect him and I bring him to the afterlife, right? And then the same thing happens for him. I bet his soul breaks off. And he does the same thing. And then maybe me, because that's over with, because I don't need to do anything anymore, I get the choice of going back again and starting everything all over again. I do think that's how it works. I honestly do think that's how it works. Because a lot of psychics have told me there's something happens to your soul when you go, there's like a bit breaks away. There is something that happens, and that's what the ETs are. The ETs are that intelligent. They've been around for millions and millions of years. They figured this out. And that's what they're tapping into. They're tapping into that. They're tapping into that soul coming back. That's what they're doing.
And no, I agree with you. And there's a link to a book I showed earlier. I do really encourage people to read. He also mentions that when it comes to the Starseed Program and soul fragmentation, whenever someone has a child, part of their soul fragments again and intermingles with the other parent.
Yes.
So here's a thought. And it may actually prove that there is actually a basis for what we are talking about that we are well aware of, but can't necessarily study due to moral limitations. What if, so let's take the stories of organ donors, people
Okay.
who have had to have organ transplant,
Yep.
all of a sudden taking on personality traits,
That's
hobbies, interests, and even memories of the person they got the organ from.
No, I've heard that. I've heard the
Makes
people
you
getting
wonder,
heart transplants. Yeah.
Does the soul also fragment when that happens? Does it carry over into the afterlife?
Well, you see, this is where people will say.
How they figured it out.
See, this is where people will say, right, but what happens if there's infinite realities, right?
There it is.
But what's not to say that your soul just doesn't go to infinite realities? You see what I'm saying? See what I'm going? See, that's the thing. So maybe you're no coming back just once. You're coming back infinitely, and that one wee bit that's left up there grows.
Shoot off. You can have a million different fragments shoot off into different realities. They likely never meet up.
Yeah.
You would never be any the wiser until they came back to you at that point of higher self, to which you're practically not going to realize it because, say, for example, the whole life flashing before your eyes, the life review, that's already technically a memory for your higher self, even though we are currently experiencing it right now.
But what's
and
to
if you
say?
feel like you need to take some drugs after me saying that, I feel like I just gave myself a headache.
But what's to say? What's to say that we, as us on here right now, and everybody in the chat, isn't experiencing a life review right now?
Exactly.
Think about it, guys. You're walking down the street. What's to say that you're not experiencing a life review right now?
You know, that also brings a couple other things into question, like the Mandela Effect or quantum immortality theory. And for those who don't know what quantum immortality, essentially is a theory that we never truly die. Say we're in a situation where we're about to be hit by a car, we just miss it by that much.
Yeah.
Who's to say in those moments where you feel so out of it in that moment, your adrenaline's pumping so high, you didn't shift to another reality.
And warn that other you to just no walk out couple of matches.
Exactly. So who's to say that the flashes we get, psychic visions we get of things to come, that isn't other reality simultaneously. Essentially, it's just a perfect analogy is that there's certain key moments where there's enough of a bang in energy that it resonates.
Yeah.
And if you go to blow something up in the middle of the ocean, there's going to be ripples.
Yes. It's like, right, let's take Mandela really, really quickly. Mandela Effect. I remember in the Monopoly game, the Monopoly guy with a monocle, right? But what happens if my soul that's came back from a different reality where he had a monocle?
Now, there's also a couple of Mandela effects that have been debunked. That, say there was a certain one with Walt Disney films.
Yeah.
Where there's that intro where you see Tinkerbell come in, she waves her wand. That was actually an intro for real old movies, 80s, 90s.
That's right.
That's remember correctly. It's just that it was so old and it changed. It does occasionally pop back up every now and then, but who's to say situations like that aren't necessarily fragments of parents' memories being inherited? Because it's actually been proven that certain mental health traits that seem to come up out of the blue may actually originate from our grandparents' trauma.
Yeah. Yeah. Imagine your grandfather was in World War II and he was in the Battle of the Bulge and there was exploding trees all around about him. And he's seen carnage, he's seen people with their legs missing, he's seen people with nothing left of them, and the sheer PTSD, the sheer horrors of that didn't come through to you, and it's affecting you.
Yeah, it can be looked at two ways. Maybe that's a sign that there is some truth to the whole Starseed concept. But there could also be an alternative theory out there that makes just as much sense. What in the world? Did you just see that?
What?
There was like this white robe thing that was like right here on
I
camera.
didn't see it, and guys, did MD in the chat see that? I thought I seen something whizzing across the screen, like a ball of light.
You see what I freaking mean? Anyway, who's to
That
say
could be
that
you
that
haunting yourself.
phenomenon? What's that?
I said that could be you haunting yourself.
I wouldn't doubt it. Anyway, who's to say that what we were just talking about, where the fears and anxieties create mental illness in younger generations, that isn't some sort of weird survival thing?
Yeah.
To where, because they say that there are kids that have been completely separated, never knew their biological parents, yet still take on their traits, even though they never met.
Yeah.
So who's to say that isn't some sort of weird survival trick that our DNA figured out? Which could very well be the case. Again, it's kind of hard to test it without killing somebody.
I just think it's fascinating. And we'll not know until it's your time. See, this is the thing. We'll not know. But how do we not know that everybody here right now isn't getting their life review? Because I actually think about this the other day. I was sitting on top of the hill, actually, looking at the mountains and stuff. And I was just pondering life. And I was thinking, I wonder, are we seeing a life review right now? Is this we're in a life review? And then when we wake up, we're back home. And you get the choice to come back again.
Yeah.
See,
Who says?
it's like, imagine if you were a ghost, you could haunt yourself.
That would explain a lot.
Think about it. I mean, think about the stuff that we capture on here, right? We'll get the big orbs flying past us like you just did the other night. When we left the other night, guys, remember that big orb that flew past me? We weren't alive, so it didn't get captured. But who's to say that orb, that energy, that being, or whatever it was, wasn't you?
Here's something else that happened. I was talking with our friend AJ. For those of you who've been following us for a while, you've seen him on the Halloween episode as the professor. He and I are collaborating on a few different projects, and I had my light on because we weren't doing any sort of lives. I was just kind of sitting like this. All of a sudden, during the conversation, we had some sort of activity going on. It was registering on my EMF like there was nuclear material sitting right next to the damn thing. All of a sudden, right about here, there was a golden flash of what looked kind of like a side profile of someone's face, of something's face. And it looked a little familiar. Like our Andromedan friend, who has said he's apparently a relation of mine.
But the thing is, I mean, the people that's in the chat right now might be relations of ours. And they're experiencing right now their life review. Think about it. I'm experiencing it, you're experiencing it, everybody in this room right now, the 16 people that are watching us right now, are experiencing this life review.
Mm-hmm.
We'll all meet up one day, we'll all recognise each other, we'll, oh, you're such and such, you're such and such, you came to my life, and then we'll come back again. And the circle of life will just continue. It will go and go and go and go on for eternity. Or until you reach a certain point. Because I do think you reach a certain point of your life force. You can do something. I don't know what it's called. What is it called again, Dakota? Is it your life force reaches a certain point. Like say, you can go away and create your own reality, basically, kind of thing. You were talking about it the other day.
Yeah. You know, Elena's book, We Will Never Let You Down. It's a sequel to her Gift from the Stars book. She actually talks about there is physical courses beings can take to create their own world. The life equation.
But what happens if they...
There's been situations where we've actually dealt with beings who were created for comic books coming to life. Yeah. We already have that ability, my friend. We just don't know how to tap into it.
But what happens if, let's for instance, let's just say you had the ability to create things like that, right? What happens if in your life review you create that thing? Think about it. You create that entity. You create it. That entity isn't anything, it's you. You've created it. And
there's a point where those entities can become sentient enough they can take on their own life force. Who's to say they don't start a reincarnation cycle themselves?
It's fascinating. I mean, you could talk about this for eternity. But there you go, we might be talking about this for eternity. In millions of years' time, God help us where the human race is if we're not blowing ourselves up the next couple of days. You know, where will we be? We'll just...
It's actually something that you just reminded me of.
What's that?
And it does follow perfectly into what we were just talking about. MK Ultra.
MK Ultra, yeah.
Project Stargate. Some of the more exotic reports that allegedly took place in those programs involved electrical stimulation to certain subjects in order to induce psychic ability.
Right.
Psychic visions, when you see me go into a trance and stuff like that, if you were to hook me up to a machine, it would register like I'm having an epileptic seizure. But no, let me finish. So you stimulate these points in the mind. Its psychic abilities did get an artificial boost, but certain subjects were able to start materializing objects out of thin air, allegedly, of course. And there's actually ancient alien theories that tie into, I believe it was out of Egypt, that there was a special chair that being could sit on and create entire worlds, create beings. We already have that ability now. And it's just like with the CE5 protocol. The tones are set at certain frequencies to start stimulating the brain for weird psychic phenomena to start taking place.
Yeah.
We have the bare essentials to do it ourselves right now.
But here's another scenario for you. What happens if it isn't the tones that get the ET's attention? What happens if it's your brain hearing those tones and the ETs they're tuning into you? Think about it. It would be actually interesting. It'd be interesting to put a pair of earphones on, go outside to do the CE5, right? Play it, right? So nobody else can hear it. Only you. And if they appear, you'll know that it's not through you playing the tones. It's them coming through you.
I've done that.
And did it work?
Duh. It's me.
Yeah. See, this is the thing. I don't think the tones are actually... I think they're just a mental thing that opens up something in your head, that opens a doorway to allow you to communicate.
Exactly.
Yeah. The
Even
tones
Craig,
are not really
when he was on,
there.
he said that was the theory, is that the tones prime your brain for one-on-one communication. That could be exactly why, and I have this recording somewhere, where voices were coming through when I was trying to do CE5 communications, where it's saying, we need the tones. It's one of the clearest captures I have ever got.
Yeah. Yeah. What happens if they're waiting for humankind, right? They're waiting for humankind to do this without the tones.
Here's a scenario for you. And it was something that we just dealt with recently. They say you don't talk about certain things, you don't challenge certain things, because technically that can be considered an invite. Once they get that invite, they can do whatever they want.
That's very true.
So
So,
who's to say that CE5 is another form of consent?
exactly.
And in fact, it actually is. What am I talking about? It is.
So, in theory, you don't need the CE5 tones to contact extraterrestrial life. You just need you. You just have to have your mind. You just have your mind tuned in to the right frequency in your mind.
Here, let me bring something up that a few people in here will recognize. The concept behind this sigil is initially meant for protection against darker energies. I tell people, technically, all they need is to visualize this in their mind.
Yeah.
Who's to say that the CE5 doesn't follow the same protocols? Who's to say that we can't create something like some sort of catchy song that gets stuck in your head, and every time it goes to start playing in your head where you're kind of zoning out, you accidentally summon an alien?
Yeah.
In theory. What we're talking about is, you can do that.
But what happens if that's what the extraterrestrials are waiting on? For us to figure this out. For us to figure out a way of contacting them without using the tones. Maybe that's the Grand Awakening. Maybe that is what they're trying to do. They're trying to get every human on Earth just to go out there without their phone, without any technology, and just stand there and think about it. And because you're thinking about it, they come. And when that day happens, you know?
Well, allegedly, come this September, we got something big coming.
That's right, we do.
Allegedly. I'm gonna say.
I don't know what it is, but my screen's got awfully dark. I don't know if you noticed that. And the same has happened to you. It's as if something's moving about. I mean,
Right as I started saying, what the
I
heck,
can
because
turn
I
this
saw
up.
what looked like someone's robe right there.
Yeah.
We started getting movement, and people in the chat were saying it, which we say all the time, ladies and gentlemen. If you think you see something, say something. You know,
Yeah.
you're more than welcome to participate in these shows. That's why we do them live, because it makes things so much more interesting.
I mean, I've noticed this. The EMF meter's not went off that much tonight.
Yeah, it's peaked a couple of times, but
Which is unusual.
not
What's
really
that?
when you think about it.
What's that? There's from One Mad Gnome. Don't
Don't
forget the
forget
light
the
in
light
your
in your
heart.
heart.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I think a good way to end this episode and potentially future projects is to keep this one concept in mind. 3 simple words.
Yeah.
We are light.
We are light. Catch you all later, guys, and catch you through the week. Chris and Alan show's on tomorrow night, premiere, so please watch. Catch you later, guys, and thank you for coming.
Later.
One!